Welcome to the Kill Count, where we tally up the victims in all our favorite horror movies. I'm James TNA Janice, and today we're looking at X, released in 2022. X is the 8th film by Ty West, whose previous horror films, like The House of the Devil, are cult classics in their own right. But X, his first slasher, is definitely West breaking out to a larger horror audience. X follows a group of people trying to make an adult film in 1970s Texas. With a premise like that, you might expect a lot of blood and boobs, and you'll get them. But the sex and violence is surrounded by genuinely compelling characters.
I'm not treating it like pornography, but it's cinema.
The victims in this movie are a far cry from the shallow blood bags we often see in slasher fare. Yeah, they work in the sex industry, but unlike in moralistic 80s horror films, they're not condemned to die because of that. X doesn't judge their line of work, since West, as an independent filmmaker, can relate to their entrepreneurial spirit.
What porn in a way did was sort of level the playing field for people to get into the movie business.
In fact, the character's progressive attitude towards sex makes them open-minded and accepting.
Queer, straight, black, white. It's all disco.
The movie's killers, a pair of elderly farm owners, are also complex and sympathetic, driven by their jealousy of these youths and their sexual freedom. These themes, the fear of getting older and the loss of being sexually desired as you age, are embedded in nearly every shot and line of dialogue. X is so full of callbacks and foreshadowing that a kill count can't do it proper justice. To fully appreciate its thematic strengths, it requires a long-form discussion, which is why I recommend our podcast episode, after you watch the movie, of course. Hell, you can make a night of it. Draw a bubble bath, light some candles, throw on the podcast, and really treat yourself with some THCO or Delta 8 goodies from today's sponsor, Vance Global.
Are you listening to us?
It soothes me.
Like I said, Vance Global sells THCO and Delta 8 products that are all completely legal and shipped right to your door in discreet packaging. Finally, some discretion from my packaging, Chucky. Vance sent me a bunch of products to test out, and I've been loving them. The THCO gummies have been fantastic for kicking back while watching a movie, and the Delta 8 gummies are perfect for dealing with life's most stressful situations. Try Vance Global for yourself by going to the link in the description and use discount code DEADMEAT for 20% off your order, or DEADMEAT30 for 30% off subscription orders. Now let's see how many characters get shown the exit and get to the kills. The movie begins with a 4x3 fake-out before dollying out of a barn into a full 16x9 frame. This is a cold open showing we've got plenty of blood ahead, enough to make Sheriff Dentler blasphemize in the basement.
My God.
But to find out how all this happened, we're gonna have to jump back 24 hours, as though this script were written by a catman in a lighthouse. We meet our main characters in a very Texas Chainsaw Massacre-like shot. X is heavily inspired by Tobe Hooper's classic, and the movie wears that influence on its sleeve. We're in Houston, Texas, in a star-spangled 1979. A huge part of this movie is the pursuit of the American dream.
My American dream is not unreasonable. I just want a paper house, a big old pool, so I can float around with my knees in the breeze and tan these titties.
These folk are hoping to find success by shooting an independent porno film. X takes place during the so-called golden age of porn, a period from 1969 to 1984 when erotic films like Deep Throat and Andy Warhol's Blue Movie were achieving mainstream theatrical success. That meant even low-budget smut could earn big box office returns. More importantly for Maxine Minks, it means a chance to become famous. She loves living the high life and thinks of herself as a star in waiting.
I need to be famous, Wayne. I'm ready for the high life. I'm sick and tired of never getting what I want. I mean it. I want the whole world to know my name.
Helping her is her fiancé Wayne, a budding adult film producer. Matthew McConaughey encourages her like a boomer parent talking to their millennial kid.
You're special. There ain't nobody else out there like you.
That's exactly what my mom always told me growing up. Wayne's using his money from running a strip club to finance a porno called The Farmer's Daughter. If it hits like Deep Throat did, he'll be able to achieve his American dream.
I don't want to have to wear a hard hat to make a living. Do you?
He's got faith in the movie because of Maxine.
You got that X factor.
Yeah, she's got that title factor. Maxine's played by English actress Mia Goth, who recently co-starred in 2018's Suspiria remake. Wayne is played by Martin Henderson, who was in The Ring, and who was last seen on the kill count as the hottie hot husband in the Stranger sequel. Maxine's co-stars are the kinda sorta dating pair of Bobby Lynn and the aptly named Jackson Hole. Jackson is played by rapper Kid Cudi, billed under his birth name, Scott Mescudi, while Bobby Lynn is played by Brittany Snow. well, just seen on the kill count in Would You Rather. Snow was excited to play a character against type, one who was super sexual, but also highly intelligent.
I really liked that this was a character and a chance to play a woman who had autonomy over her own body and her sexuality.
For inspiration, she watched Dolly Parton movies and interviews, since she too wields sexuality and smarts in equal measure. Filming this fuckfest will be a fresh-faced 23-year-old named RJ. He approaches it with all the gusto of a recent film school grad.
I actually intend on experimenting a lot with the film's editing, giving it a certain sense of the avant-garde like they're doing in France.
Cool. I'm gonna go get another beer. No, you can just stay there. RJ's brought along his girlfriend Lorraine, played by already established Scream Queen Jenna Ortega. She was last seen on the kill count in The Babysitter Killer Queen, but she'll be back on the channel soon enough. The quiet Lorraine is skeptical of the porn production, being more a fan of Deliverance and Rob Reiner films. She's upset to be helping on it. She didn't realize she'd be the Miri to RJ's Zach.
Ought start somewhere, Lorraine.
RJ, it's smart.
When did you become such a prude?
Maybe when her Alba taught her virginity is like a flower you can't uncrush. RJ is a clear stand-in for Ty West himself, even resembling him physically. He also reminds me of Tariq, the filmmaker character West played in You're Next. RJ's lines are basically West talking to the audience.
It is possible to make a good dirty movie.
That's exactly what he was setting out to do with X.
Well, what would be the ultimate, like, sort of lowbrow exploitation thing of, like, sex and violence, and then how would you do something maybe a little more highbrow with it?
He also wanted X to be edgy and taboo, feeling that modern horror movies were too soft. They have a quick road trip with experimental editing, like in France. Hey, I'm the next scene. Mind if I... Okay, I'm just coming in. This staggered editing will happen throughout the movie, but there's only one transition that can rightly be described as a cockwipe. They arrive at their destination, a remote farmhouse Wayne's found to save on budget. He meets with the farm's owner, Howard, and after a rocky first impression, the old man eventually leads the group to their guest house on the edge of the property. This location was a farm in Fordell, New Zealand. Despite taking place in Texas, X was shot in the land of the long white cloud, primarily around Wellington and Wanganui. Wonder if Martin Henderson enjoyed being in his home country. Howard is less than pleased that Wayne's violating his Airbnb's guest policy.
I don't recall you mentioning you'd be bringing all these others.
Wayne's attempt at gratuity doesn't smooth things over.
I don't think I like you, Wayne. In fact, I don't much like the looks of none of y'all.
Howard's played by the then 62-year-old Stephen wearing 9 pieces of prosthetics to make him seem at least a decade older. It wasn't his first time undergoing such a makeup process though, having played several orcs in the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit films. Was briefly seen on this channel as Ricky Daggers in the Deathgasm kill count, before that film's director took the video down and gave us a copyright strike. Thanks for that, by the way. You made Zoran cry. Despite Howard's hostility, Wayne excuses him as an old man jealous of their youth.
It's harmless. He's just old. His pecker ain't probably been hard since before you were born. I'd hate people like us then too.
In another instance of this movie tapping on the fourth wall, Wayne says it's time for this porn-focused horror film to get to the sex scenes.
I reckon it's about high time we cut to the chase and we give the people what they want to see.
Of course, it is not what YouTube wants to see. If there's anything this site hates more than gore, it's sex and nudity, meaning editor Josh has got a whole lot of censoring ahead. Sorry, bud, but those gyrating hips will get this video restricted faster than a sinner in a saw trap. Sex scenes and nudity are a staple of slashers, but what's important to me is that the actors feel comfortable and safe. Thankfully, that was the case here.
I think because if it was anyone less of a gentleman, really, it could have been a different experience, and Ty as well. I mean, I think we were all such a family of like making sure that we all felt comfortable.
Helping to that end was Tandy Wright, the film's intimacy coordinator. I'm glad productions have those nowadays. While Jackson and Bobby Lynn get down and demonetized, Maxine sees Howard's elderly wife Pearl waving at her from the farmhouse. Hello! Our little Harriet seems attracted to wood houses, so one Texas Chainsaw shot later, she's acting just like the kids in that movie and entering a house without permission. Oshkosh, but gosh darn, that's a lot of side boob. Instead of a hammer to the head, Maxine gets offered lemonade by Pearl. Must be pretty good for Maxine to want to chug, 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 chug. Maxine tries to cut the visit short, but Pearl would rather take her for a trip down memory lane.
Y'all was young ones too.
Pearl used to be a dancer, but life got in the way. Now she and her longtime husband Howard are old, yearning for the youth and beauty their house guests have. Pearl's envy is mixed with admiration of Maxine's special face and special side boob.
What are you doing?
Looking respectfully? Pearl's actually been peeping whenever she can, like when Maxine made like a Crystal Lake counselor and went skinny dipping. These two characters are mirror images of each other, reflected in their casting, which elevates X to another level. Pearl is played by Maxine's actress Mia Goth, doing double duty by taking on both roles. Goth worked with a choreographer to figure out Pearl's physicality and wore prosthetics that took 8 to 10 hours to apply, since they consisted of 20 to 30 individual pieces. This makeup, and most of the movie's effects, were done by New Zealand's Weta Workshop, which I incorrectly called Weka when discussing their work in the Prometheus kill count. My bad. Goth would have to start the process at 3 a.m., and when it was done, endure another 12 hours of filming, during which makeup artist Sarah Rubano would apply touch-ups as needed. It was a grueling schedule, one that Goth used for character inspiration.
That's really one of the main obstacles that Pearl is dealing with, is just the sense of entrapment, that there is no future for her. And so whenever I started to feel overwhelmed in the makeup, I tried to harness those feelings and breed a sense of authenticity into her.
The dual casting embodies the movie's themes of aging and lost youth, which is also reflected by the way Maxine and Pearl first see each other. They're each framed through their own window, like windows into each other's past and future. Pearl's is closed, like her life paths at this point, while Maxine's is open, representing the opportunity she still has to lead the life she wants to. I love how much Goth disappears into Pearl. Chelsea and I didn't realize it was her the first time we watched this. The dual casting is so much more than just a gimmick. It's essential to X's entire point. Again, I recommend our podcast episode to hear us fully explore this movie's rich thematic layers. When Howard gets home, Maxine escapes the awkwardness and gets back to the guest house. She takes a bump of Bateman's best and promises herself she won't end up like Pearl.
I will not accept a life I do not deserve.
She starts to film her scenes, beginning with dialogue that might as well be talking about Pearl.
She's always been jealous. I'm younger. Get all the attention.
Maxine's presence seems to have made Pearl wake up. She grabs a brush and puts on a little makeup, but I don't think I trust in the arthritis homicide she's probably going to commit. Maxine maxes out the movie's sex scenes and more stuff that I can't show. Rest assured, she shows off that X factor. Her action with Jackson has a profound effect on everyone watching. Ooh, especially Lorraine, she likey. And who's that watching through the window? Why, it's Pearl, who wishes she were young with a man entering her pearly gates. She returns home, all horned up, and attempts to get it on, Mills Lane style, with Howard. But her swaying can't persuade her husband because he's worried about his heart health.
You know I can't. My heart.
That night, the crew has a discussion prompted by Lorraine, who asks how these couples can be in love while watching their partners have sex with other people. Wayne proclaims it's just business, while Bobby Lynn defends their decisions with a thematic declaration.
One day, we're gonna be too old to fuck. And life's too short, if you ask me.
This is a turning point of the movie in more ways than one, and is perfectly situated, falling right at the midpoint and scored by a beautiful cover of Fleetwood Mac's Landslide. While Brittany Snow sings lyrics about getting older and weathering the seasons of life, we see a heartbroken, rejected Pearl sadly strip away the makeup that failed to seduce her husband. It's a surprisingly poignant sequence in this sexy, soon-to-be gory slasher, and it honestly makes me tear up every time I watch it. This is how you motivate a villain and make the audience feel sympathy towards them. And at the conclusion of the song, we get one more turning point for the characters.
I want to do a scene in the movie.
What?
RJ is understandably not okay with this. It's different than with the other couples where everyone is consenting. But his response is poorly articulated. Instead of just saying it would hurt him, he falls back on hollow arguments about the integrity of his film. It doesn't work on a newly determined Lorraine.
When did you become such a prude?
RJ further sticks his foot in his mouth when he disparages Maxine and Bobby Lynn to Wayne.
Lorraine is not like the others in there. She is a nice girl.
Beg your pardon?
It's an unfortunate situation all around, and the fallout is a traumatic experience for RJ, who has to film his girlfriend having sex with another man. Judging by that cross, and even more so by that underwear, this is not where Lorraine was expecting to wind up when she got ready this morning. Huh, Sunday? I thought she was in Wednesday. The unwanted hot wifing sends a weeping RJ to the shower that night as everyone else sleeps soundly. Damn, super dark times for this guy. I really feel for him. I know he's a pretentious film student, but I repeat myself, but he seemed mostly nice until he was put on the spot. Upset, he decides to take off and leave the others behind, only to be stopped by a Gran in the headlights. Pearl's quick to get handsy with the young director, but RJ's not looking to put her on any casting couches.
I can show you what I'm capable of.
Stop. I don't want to see it. Maybe we should just go find your husband.
Sick of being blue-beamed, Pearl stabs into RJ's neck as a way to take out her sexual frustrations. She mounts him and continues stabbing away while the van's radio blares Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult. In fact, she stabs his neck so thoroughly that it ends up decapitating him against the ground. Good God. For the final shot of RJ's body, a twitching stunt performer laid with his upper body underground, while a fake torso and head were placed on top. The brutal kill is shocking and unexpected, and kicks off the slasher half of the movie. In an eerie yet oddly beautiful scene, Pearl uses the skills she learned at Marcos and dances over RJ's body, echoing a photo she showed Maxine earlier. The music switches to a cover of Wee Wee Marie, a 1918 song sung by singer-songwriter Chelsea Wolfe for this film. X's score was composed by Wolfe and frequent Rob Zombie collaborator Tyler Bates. It features eerie vocals, funky music for the porno, and sometimes moaning sampled from the movie's sex scenes. Lorraine notices that RJ is gone and worries that she drove him away. Why might you think that, Lorraine? Of course you fucking did. She enlists Wayne in his banana hammock to help her find him, and I like that Wayne isn't creepy towards this young woman. He's more exasperated at having to help her at this time of night.
I ain't getting in the middle of no more of this shit.
God damn, I only pray that I look half as good as Martin Henderson when I'm 46. They split up, with Wayne heading into a barn. There, he steps onto an upright nail that gives him a nasty wound. Spurty spurty! He notices movement near some holes in the back wall and takes a peep in an homage to Psycho. Unfortunately, Wayne doesn't pull back in time to avoid a pitchfork to the face. Out go his eyes. Even more spurty spurty. Wayne's been stabbed in the face by Pearl. Though frail, she had the element of surprise, and she doesn't need 7 days to kill him. She does it with a feeble double tap right away. There you go, Pearl. Yeah, cover it up with hay. I'm sure no one will notice. While many of this movie's effects were done by Weta, Wayne's death was handled by the Netherlands-based Mimic FX studio. A fake upper body and head were built for close-ups of the pitchfork going in and the eyeball coming out. I love this kill, but I'm not sure what those holes in the barn are for. Does Pearl stab a lot of people like this? Or do Howard and some pals enjoy side-by-side glory holing? Lorraine goes to the farmhouse and runs into Howard, who asks her to go into the cellar to get a flashlight. Once she's down there, he locks the door behind her. Trapped and hoping to find another way out, Lorraine looks around until she discovers the same thing Sheriff Dentler will find the next morning. A naked body strung up in a corner, almost certainly someone who's been used as a sex slave. This American carnage is enough to turn Jenna Ortega into a screaming poster girl. You can actually see this victim's missing photo on the milk carton Jackson's pounding back at the guest house. I guess sexy ladies ain't the only thing he pounds. His need for speed drinking abated, he spots Howard out front, putting a pause to the late night lactose. Hanging full magnificent dong in the doorway, Jackson asks Howard what he's up to.
My wife, she's gone missing.
Missing?
She gets confused. It happens sometimes after dark.
Jackson's a nice guy and has expressed solidarity with Howard since both of them served in the military. Howard in both World Wars, Jackson more recently in Vietnam. He agrees to help look for Pearl and puts away that anteater of his so they can head down to the lake. This is part of the reason I love X. The victims aren't assholes or bland meatbags just waiting to be killed. They're nice, intelligent people who offer to help the elderly people trying to kill them.
If she's out here, I'll find her.
This was an imperative from Ty West.
He was very adamant that he wanted these characters to be lovable, and he really wanted to develop these characters, which was important to me, that by the time the story takes a turn, that you don't want these characters to die, that you're really invested in them.
Using his tracking skills from Vietnam, Jackson unearths another Psycho homage, a sunken car, possibly belonging to the man Lorraine found in the basement. Or maybe Herbie finally had enough, you know? He returns to Howard, who just like Pearl, is envious towards youth and vigor.
You don't understand what it's like. You can still do as you please.
Howard says that Jackson's been enticing his wife, and I love how Kid Cudi delivers his response.
Yeah. Okay. Well...
He's unable to say too much more before Howard shoots him point blank with his boomstick. Well, that's a bummer. Back at the guest house, the Grim Reaping Granny strips down to her birthday suit and gets her cuddle on with a sleeping Maxine. And she don't want anybody else. When she thinks about it, she touches herself. Oh, is she into the Elizabeth Bathory skincare routine? Gotta say, Pearl, not doing you too much good. When Maxine finally wakes up, her scream wakes up Bobby Lynn, who sees Pearl running out of the house. Bobby Lynn follows Pearl down towards the lake, where she finds her standing naked on the dock. Assuming she's having some kind of confused episode, she rushes over to help the elderly woman. Just like Jackson, she's going out of her way to be nice, although Pearl takes her tone as condescending.
My Nana gets confused sometimes as well. Believe it or not, I even thought about becoming a nurse one day. So, okay, why don't you come with me?
I don't need a nurse.
Pearl calls Bobby Lynn a whore, and we get another absolutely hilarious reaction.
Okay. You know what?
Though Nominee is used to dealing with the heartless, she bites back and insults Pearl right in the sore spot.
It ain't my fault you didn't live the life you wanted.
That gets her shoved into the lake, where an alligator attacks her and kills her in a terrifying death roll. The sequence was achieved using 3 different mechanical alligators, with a stunt double performing the more intense parts of the death roll. Snow views her death with hometown pride.
I'm originally from Florida, so death by alligator, I feel like I represented where I'm from accurately.
This eaten alive homage didn't come out of nowhere either. The low-key gator was seen when Maxine was taking her Jennifer's body like skinny dip, and nearly got her even. It was a close crawl. Lorraine finds a hatchet next to some swammy, slippy, slappy, Samson paints. I was way off. She uses it to Jack Torrance her way through the door, but Howard dashes her ambitions and fingy bones with the butt of his shotgun. He regroups with Pearl and the Sin Keepers leave for the guest house, where Maxine has figured out that something's wrong. She hides as the curmudgeonly killers search for her. Even though Howard has Lorraine in the cellar for Pearl, she wants Maxine and Maxine only.
This one was different. She had something special.
Bet y'all didn't expect this movie to be about old people killing youths and kidnapping them for sex slaves, huh? The geriatric Jack and Jill the Rippers share a tender moment together.
Tell me I'm special.
Of course you are.
Again, for as evil as their actions are, Ty West makes you feel sympathy for Pearl and Howard. They're ravaged by old age, something that none of us can escape. So you're almost happy for them when they finally decide to bang like they lived in the villages.
What if my heart can't take it?
Unbeknownst to either of them, Maxine is hiding underneath the bed. It's a scenario that's every grandchild's worst nightmare. I know that some audiences reacted to this scene with disgust, but honestly, that just proves the movie's point. The earlier scenes with young sexy people banging were titillating and enjoyable. Don't old people deserve to get freak nasty too sometimes? Having heard their plotting and prodding, Maxine makes her escape and runs outside, only to find both the van and RJ in the same sorry state. She grabs a glove box pistol and makes her way to the main house, where Lorraine jump scares her like a Haunted Mansion prop. Despite Maxine's pleas to be quiet, Lorraine loudly blames her and the others for causing all of this. She figures the best thing she can do is run. But that doesn't work out very well for her, now does it? Now she's got Sunday Bloody Sundays. I love how sudden this kill is, considering Lorraine would be the final girl in most other slashers. Howard intends on taking advantage of Texas's stand your ground laws.
Help me drag the body inside. If she's in a house, that's self-defense. That's the law.
But a death rattle from Lorraine's body startles him so bad, he keels over on the spot like unhealthy Doug at the Slash Dance. Guess he was right about his heart's delicate condition. To be fair though, that thing's been working overtime tonight. As Pearl tends to her husband, Maxine tries to find the keys to their truck. When it becomes clear Maxine isn't calling up Lifeline, Pearl lets the youngster know exactly what she thinks of her.
Deviant little whore. Wind up just like me.
Maxine joins a televangelist in denying this charge, repeating her life-affirming mantra.
I will not accept a life I do not deserve. I do not deserve.
She goes to shoot Pearl, but realizes the gun isn't loaded, something Wayne mentioned when they first arrived. Pearl quickly rearms herself, but the shot's kickback sends her flying out the front door.
Now that's what I call divine intervention.
Maxine, having dodged the shot, goes outside to find Pearl lying there with a broken hip, something foreshadowed earlier by Howard.
It's very dark and I'm worried she could fall and break her hip.
In fact, all of the characters' fates are cleverly foreshadowed throughout the movie. RJ's post-shower stabbing that changes up the film occurs about halfway through.
The story can't just suddenly change midway through.
What about in Psycho? You love that movie.
The deaths of Wayne, Jackson, and Howard are all hinted at in lines of dialogue.
People's eyes are gonna pop out of their damn skulls when they see this.
2 tours in South Vietnam. Had enough farmers trying to shoot me for one lifetime.
No, I wouldn't want to give the old codger a heart attack. Would you?
Lorraine spends most of the movie holding a shotgun mic, and her fatal character development sees her go from quiet church mouse to screaming victim.
I don't like his girlfriend. She hardly says a word.
Keep your voice down! Don't tell me to be quiet!
And at the very beginning of the movie, Bobby Lynn walks through a foreboding mural with an alligator on it. X is chock full of details that really reward multiple viewings. The survivalist strolls past the fallen senior citizen as she shouts defiant words from the ground.
You're not special!
Paying her no mind, Maxine reverses the truck over Pearl's head, putting a splattery end to her night of murder and sexual frustration. Goodbye, Pearl! Maxine drives away down the road in a much more optimistic inverse of Texas Chainsaw's ending. Back in the present, the pastor in that church broadcast is revealed to be Maxine's father.
We pray one day she'll find her way home to us.
It's implied that pressure from her father, seen on TVs throughout the film, is what caused her to rebel and wind up in this lifestyle.
It ain't healthy keeping those feelings locked away inside.
Sheriff Detler takes a break from voicing Power Rangers characters and tries to piece together the crime scene. He may have some help in the form of RJ's camera. When asked what he thinks they'll find on it, he ends the movie with a wink to the audience.
I see one goddamn fucked up horror picture.
How many X Factor having X-rated extras were X-terminated? Let's find out and get to the numbers.
Whoa. We'll get to your numbers in a second, but first, you've got a porno to shoot. And action!
Oh, excuse me. I'm just a lonely YouTuber whose algorithm broke down on the side of the road. Do you think you could help me and my YouTube get its views up?
Yeah, nice. Really natural. Great work.
Thanks.
Now take off your clothes.
Huh. Sorry, bud. That's only for sponsor segments. What a weird guy. 8 people died in X, with the victims consisting of 5 men and 3 ladies. What a stimulating porno pie chart. This same count and breakdown could also be seen in 5 previous kill count episodes, including last week's Child's Play 2. With a runtime of 106 minutes, that left us with a kill on average every 13.25 minutes. Golden Chainsaw for Coolest Kill has a lot of options, but I'll give it to RJ. It kicks off the movie's bloody second half, and is such a severe stabbing that it ends in a decapitation. Brutal. Dull Machete for Lamest Kill will go to Jackson, since it's mostly off screen, and I really like that guy. And that's it. X came out earlier this year in 2022, and theater goers were treated to a post-credits trailer for a prequel called Pearl. This entire ass other movie was shot secretly by Ty West at the same time he made X. It shows us Pearl's origins and comes out in just 2 weeks on September 16th. I'll cover it after it's out on Blu-ray, but until then, I'm James A. Janice. This has been the Kill Count.
On the next Kill Count.
Here comes the bride, bleached with peroxide.
Barbie, eat your heart out.
After 10 years of killing and Ade doing the Dambala, it's time our bachelor blood buddies settled down.
Will you be my bride?
And what better Barbie for the killer Ken than the hilarious, sexy Jennifer Tilly?
Well, hello, Dolly.
Bride of Chucky ditches the Child's Play title and takes the series in a new comedic direction with genre self-awareness.
Why does that look so familiar?
Pop culture references.
What would Martha Stewart say?
Fuck Martha Stewart!
And doll sex.
You're never gonna fucking believe this.
Yep, doll sex.
That is sick.
Calm down, you prudes. They're married.
Kiss me.
Okay.
So relax this weekend and watch Chucky, even if he doesn't want you watching him.
Rude fucking doll.
And on Sunday, make sure to RSVP for the Kill Count Recount, only on Dead Meat.
If you know what's good for you, you are going to love, honor, and obey.
Bride of Chucky can currently be watched on the pictured streaming platforms. Demi always recommends you watch the movie for yourself before its kill count. It's the only way to have your own properly informed opinion. Kill counts are never meant to replace the experience of watching a film.
Hey, thanks a lot for watching this kill count. And thank you, Zoran, for coming in and shooting a porno with me.
Yeah, it's so good that I got over COVID like 2 days ago.
Very fortunate, yeah. I've been getting a lot of comments about the scripts since I came back to host. And I gotta say, a lot of those references that people call out are because of you, man. A lot of your jokes and references, people really like them.
I pour over IMDb pages and try and shove as many as humanly possible in there, and then James just goes, no one knows what this is.
I take about 40% of your jokes, but you give me so many that it's great to work with. You're getting married.
I am. I'm getting married October 1st.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited and also super stressed about getting a wedding. I think I'm gonna take 6 months off. What do you think? Like that's what
that
you
sounds
said, right?
completely unreasonable. All right, get the fuck out of here.
Okay, bye.
I want to thank some patrons like Casey Amdahl, Claire Lusher, DJ Graham, DJW3, Drew Nishke, Flumsy, Genevieve Mercy, and Graham Shear. Thanks everyone. Be good people.